All right, good morning, everybody. Today's Thursday, September 22nd, 2022. This is a meeting of the Finance Committee of the Darien Board of Education. The first item on the agenda this morning is the review of August 2022 financial report.
So this is the first financial report for fiscal year 23. We are currently showing a positive balance of $314,416. We are also 4.1 FTEs below budget. To highlight what those are, it is three elementary sections that were under enrolled. So one at Hindley in second grade, one at Holmes in fourth, and one at fifth in Royal. This was reflected in the enrollment reports we gave to the Board of Education. We were only able to secure one teacher in residence, so that's instead of two, so that is one FTE there. Mandarin, which is new to the budget, ended up being a 0.4 instead of a 0.6. They had 29 students enrolled against a projected 45, so that's only two sections. And then 0.5 in math at Middlesex, and a 0.4 at the high school, and those are savings due to the change of 4.5 classes to 5, which is done through attrition. And then we are flagging the potential addition of the director of mental health. If it ends up not being approved by the Board of Ed, then in the future forecast we'll have taken that out. So general education RCs are positive 490,772. Special education RCs are a negative 176,355, and there are no expenditures in RC 28, the COVID account. Just going through some of the accounts. RC1, the high school, we are showing a positive balance as we are not looking to run the China exchange program, and so that'll have a positive balance of 4,701 in the curriculum supervision account, and then a positive $7,000 in other student activities. Currently, we are unable to secure a fall intern at the high school, so that does show a positive balance of $15,000. We did want to flag, though, that there's a possibility that those funds might have to be moved to substitutes, as typically the intern will act as a substitute in the building. But as of right now, we're just flagging it as a positive balance. In RC3 Middlesex, we do have a positive balance of $12,406. There was a gap in timing between the previous middle school assistant principal leaving and the new assistant principal starting, and then an interim assistant principal who did not work every day over the summer. And so that's salary savings associated with those two positions. And then again at Middlesex, similar to the high school, we were not able to secure a fall intern. But again, that might have to go to substitutes as the year progresses. In Hindley, as I mentioned, we do have a positive balance as we did not need the second grade section as it came in under enrollment projections. And then Hindley as well was not able to secure a fall intern. In Holmes, 55,461 as fourth grade came under projection. And then there is a small positive balance of $1,387 as there was a timing difference between when the principal secretary left and the new one got hired. At Oxbridge, there's a positive balance of $15,564. There is a new salary schedule for custodians hired after July 1st. And so that is immediate savings of $15,000. At Royal, there's a positive balance of $2,146 in the principal account. Again, there's a timing difference between when the previous principal left and the interim principal started. And then there's a positive balance of $66,833 in fifth grade as that section came in under projection. And then to Tokenique, they were also unable to secure a fall intern, and so we are showing a positive balance of $15,000. In RC11 athletics, elementary intramurals are forecasted as a positive balance of $7,829, as we are only anticipating Holmes as the only elementary school to run intramurals again this year. In RC12, there is a positive balance in the assistant director facility account of $6,743. This employee did not start until the end of July, so there's a gap in timing from when that was filled to the start of the fiscal year. There's a positive balance of groundskeepers of $16,515. Again, there's a new salary schedule for maintenance employees hired after July 1st, and so that is the savings for that account. And then again, in maintenance, we have a savings of $19,843. There's a new salary schedule in the maintenance contract for hires after July 1st. And so those are savings associated with that contract. The next item is pending transfer for the board. Reserve for emergency repair is forecasting a deficit of $60,000. It was flagged when Mr. Monrette, the facilities director, gave his summer facilities report. We are in the capital budget replacing the fire pump at the middle school. It was slated to be tested in August. Unfortunately, that test failed, and as a result, we needed a temporary fire pump where the school has to be closed. Kevin did a great job with getting one on site just in case we were to fail. basically have it as an insurance policy. The hope was that we would only need it for a month or two, we'd pass, and then we could send it on back. Unfortunately, it did fail. So we are anticipating having to continue to rent this fire pump until the new fire pump arrives. He is anticipating the new fire pump to arrive between February and March. So the $60,000 will actually cover us a little bit past that in case there is a little bit of a hiccup in getting it. But we do need the temporary fire pump to keep the school operating. RC 15 technology, there is a positive balance of $2,529. The new technician did not start until the end of July. In RC 17 health, there is a positive balance of $1,500 as there was a timing difference between the old director of nursing and the new director of nursing starting. In RC 18 personnel, we did budget a staff turnover credit of $689,100. Currently, we've met that forecast, though we do have 5 positions still to be filled, so there's a potential that could change. Additionally, the turnover was actually only achieved through a combination of a few items. One, FTE reductions that we mentioned earlier, which is really the 4.5 to the 5, so the Middlesex and high school position, and then the 0.2 reduction in Mandarin. The non-certified and administrator turnover was 154,000. So the administrators are the department chairs, the principals, the assistant principals. The non-certified turnover is the director of facilities and the director of nursing was 154,000. And then if we look at teacher turnover, it was actually 451,000. So it was actually much less than it's been in the past. We did have 70 openings this year. And again, we still have 5 openings. It's been much more difficult this year compared to previous years to recruit teachers. But we were able to meet that turnover credit through a combination of those items. But again, we still have 5 to replace. Contract support shows a favorable balance of $16,814. There were savings against the anticipated budget for the custodial maintenance contract, and then unaffiliated compensation was less than budget. As I mentioned earlier, the teacher in residence account is $48,000 as we under budget, as we only hired 1 teacher in residence instead of 2. Budget control shows a positive balance of $145,000. To date, that has not been touched. And then there's a positive balance of $10,750 in dues and memberships, as we only have 1 teacher in residence instead of 2. We are flagging a deficit in RC 19 curriculum for the director of mental health, assuming that is approved by the Board of Education. If it ends up not being approved, then obviously this deficit would go away. RC 23, Darien Summer School. Darien Summer School had its best financial performance to date this past summer. Total revenues were $751,000 against a budget of $720,000, so it was actually $31,000 better than anticipated. In RC 24, special education, we are forecasting a shortfall of $139,799. If you recall, the new state budget has tiered reimbursement rates for excess costs through town wealth. This is a change in how excess costs has been calculated in the past. As a result, our cap is now set at 70%, where our budget was set at 75%. And if you recall, last year, we received just over 80%. So based on the budget and a 70% cap instead of a 75, we would be at $139,799 less than anticipated. But again, it'll all depend on what our filings are in December and February. And so as a result, once we actually have those filings for December 1st, we'll apply that new 70% cap to see where it actually shakes out. But given it's so early in the year, we're just going to use what our budget is. For RC 25, property insurance is forecasted with a positive balance at the $8,500. The renewal was 7% against a projected 10% increase. We were anticipating a large increase due to these storm damages from last year. Workers' compensation is forecasted with a positive balance of just over $19,000. General liability is a positive balance of $300. Student accident insurance is forecasted with a positive balance of just over $1,900. Health insurance is forecasted with a positive balance right now of $63,796. We do have 3 under-enrolled elementary sections, as I mentioned earlier, so those budgeted insurance packages won't be needed. Same with the teacher in residence. We do have an increase in insurance for a job share for a nurse at the middle school, and then potential insurance for the newly created director of mental health if it's approved. And then FICA and Medicare is forecasted at a deficit of $2,100, assuming that the director of mental health is approved. ELP revenue is forecasted at a deficit of $37,560. We do have 44 paying students against a budget of 49. However, just as a reminder, we do tend to enroll kids throughout the year. So this is based on who is here currently. So obviously, if we get kids throughout the year and future months, we would adjust that forecast accordingly. I can either go to the grants or we can pause or.
Why don't we pause there? Any questions?
We have a couple. This came up during the budget cycle. What is the deal with China exchange? Why are we not running it this year? We did ask the question, so I just want to make sure.
Just at the time frame in terms of the lead up, the required plan for it at that particular point, honestly, I didn't feel it that it was appropriate that we engage in that China exchange program at this particular point, just health and wellness.
Okay.
And I think that feeling was also mutual on the other side.
Okay. And then on the interns, we've seen some difficulty filling that over time. For a while, it looked like that was a COVID issue. Is it a lack of availability? Do we know why we're having trouble?
So it's a lack of availability under enrolled education majors in
Okay.
Local universities.
Okay.
So there's a teacher shortage in general, and there's a teacher shortage of prospective teachers as well.
Okay. Given that, should we start to forecast different? I mean, I'm sure you are.
Sure. I mean, if we want to stay with the interns, some districts have moved away from interns and added additional building subs. So those are people who are already out of college. Maybe they don't have a full-time job yet, but they're in district 4 to 5 days a week all the time, and they get a sub daily rate.
Okay.
So that's something we might look at in the coming budget or the future budgets, if it continues to be this difficult to get into.
Okay. And you note that it's fall interns. Do we have, is it any different for spring interns, or are we looking?
So
at
we're
the same?
hoping to get spring interns, but we won't know until further on into the year.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Terry, go ahead. My question is, when you look at the director of mental health, is that a pro forma figure, assuming it gets approved by the Board of Ed and assuming you hire by October?
So this is a full year, so everybody knows kind of what the full cost is. Obviously, if it's approved by the Board of Ed, they didn't start at the start of school, so the true cost will be less. So once the individual, if it is approved and then the individual is hired, we would adjust that to show what the actual expense would be, but it won't be that high. It's really just to show everybody what the true cost for a full year is.
So be a 12th or a 6th lower based on the timing of all this.
Basis.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, there might be a modification, a slight modification, because if that is an administrative position, it has to be negotiated. So that's the best projected number.
Okay, thank you. RC 12, the maintenance, and what the transfer is related to, is there a Capex figure for the new pump now, or?
Yep. So the pump is on order. It was just under about $100,000, right around that. It's taking a lot longer to get than anticipated. So it's on order. We have it, but without a fire pump, you can't open school. So this is really just the rental to kind of get us to the point where the school's coming.
Was it originally budgeted?
It was.
Oh,
yeah,
okay, thank you.
The new fire pump.
Okay, and then RC 18, the turnover. So as I read through your comments, it seems like the turnover is on target, but the adjustment, it's on target because we have
Because of
fewer
other
positions,
factors.
which means we're actually hiring more experienced, higher priced
Correct.
teachers. Okay,
Correct.
just so that the public understands that. And then the RC 24, the ECR, that's a hard 70%, no matter what is filed statewide. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. If you want to just quickly run through the grant
Sure.
report, you did the whole thing a
Yep.
couple weeks ago, so.
So there's not a lot to do with the grants because not all of them come out this early. But the IDEA award was actually slightly higher. We're at $912,000. We do typically forecast a balance to carry over, so we avoid grant compression, and those amounts are relatively the same. If you recall, last year, the IDEA ARP was a 2-year grant. We were anticipating not spending it last year and spending it all this year. That is the case. There was a new grant that came out, the Special Education Stipend. It's a 1-year grant, and it's to support ESY services. That is a $15,000 grant. The title grants really are no change in terms of anticipated expenditures. Not all of them are actually opened yet. For example, the Title III grant. And then ARP ESSER funds, it is primarily being used to support ESY and recovery services. There is now an anticipated balance of $50,000 in that grant. At some point, we'll have to decide what to use that for. We do have this year and next year to spend that. That balance is really due to resignations in the interventionists that were 1-year positions from the previous year. Luke at Oxford did secure another grant for unified sports for the elementary schools of $750. And then we have $34 carried over from the previous year. So that's another new grant. And then the Darien Foundation continues to support robotics. And then the food service financial report, through August, we are forecasting a loss of 54,449. As is the case every year, the food service fund does operate at a loss because you have some costs at the beginning of the year. And it tends to be positive right around December and January. We are forecasting that the year end will be a positive $218,000. If that does carry forward, we'd be at a fund balance of over $600,000 for the year. As we get closer to the end of this fiscal year and that forecast holds true, we will likely bring a recommendation to the board of equipment repairs that need to be taken, new equipment to be purchased to draw down on that fund balance. The benefit of that is then you don't have to put that in your capital budget for future years. But we'd rather make sure that we're closer to where that fund balance is going to be in our projection. So right now we're looking at things like stoves and refrigerators and walk-in freezers and things like that. But I will say sales through September have been very strong, much stronger than anticipated. We did expect Oxford would have a little bit of a dip because they don't actually have a cafeteria or a kitchen yet, based on the structure of the school and the construction. They're actually much better than anticipated as well. They're averaging about $700 a day, which is slightly less than last year, but much higher than the $300 a day we thought we would get. So overall, the program is working very well.
In the capital items that you're targeting, these are like normal replacement cycles
are.
that you look at. Okay, thank you. And then I guess just the budget transfer.
So there is one transfer for recommendation. It is $60,000 to fund the rental of the temporary fire pump at Middlesex. We are recommending taking funds from the additional revenue from DSS for $31,000, and then savings from the teacher and resident program from having only one instead of two, including both the salary and the dues.
Perfect. So we've discussed that. I would recommend that we bring it to the board with a positive recommendation. Agreed? Yeah. Okay, perfect. We're going to go to public comment.
Good morning. Would anyone like in person have a comment to make?
We have two people in the audience now.
No. And there are no raised hands at this
All
time.
right, then could I get a motion for adjournment? Second. All in favor? We're done. Thank you.